Hi, Mark here from the Tangibound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangibound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangibound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangiboundNetwork.com and see if Tangibound Network is right for you.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everyone. My name is Jen. I am your hostess for the evening. And with me, as usual, is we have Brian and Henno. Hey, guys.
Howdy.
Hey, hi, hey.
Hey.
Hi, hi, hi.
Hee-hee-hoo.
So how you guys doing? What's going on? How you been?
I got one to start with.
Oh, we have a volunteer.
I'm combining this is my win for the week, going off of communication and the idea of restraint of tongue and pen is sometimes the best thing.
Mm-hmm.
Listening to a podcast that I've enjoyed for years. I've actually financially supported this podcast, and they were recently talking about, gave an opinion that alcoholism is not a disease, it's a choice.
Ooh.
And which, you know what? I get it. A lot of people, I talked about this over a year ago when there was a letter to the editor about this exact same topic and a certain documentary on, what's her name? Anyhow. And at first it didn't bother me so much. I'm like, okay, a lot of people feel this way. But then they started talking about diabetes, and diabetes too is exactly the same as alcoholism when you look at it. You can compare them side by side.
You really can.
And
yeah.
You can. And oftentimes diabetes too is specifically used as an example of why alcoholism is a disease.
Right.
And I was about to send a tweet, send something, and I went, no, you know what? I just don't have to listen to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
Because even if you do want to say something like that, you are being completely dismissive of people with some real issues and saying that it was a choice. Just as much as I did Angela's awesome podcast was about, health and eating and exercise and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I would have never, and now granted their show's not about that, but still, I would have never said, oh, your diabetes was a choice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just horrible.
It's interesting you say that, though, because, there is a correlation of, obese people and diabetes essentially in this country, So a lot of people will be, well, if you just quit eating as much, kind of a thing. And it's like,
it's the same as, why don't you stop drinking?
Yeah.
Hey, you lazy, depressed guy. Why don't you just get up?
Yeah.
Smile.
Oh my goodness. And not to mention, it's like alcoholism has been a disease since 1956.
Yeah.
Because of a bunch of doctors. Now, granted, it was so people could get into treatment and things like that. I get it. There's a lot of lobbying involved.
Sure.
But this is not new.
Yeah.
True.
If you were going to go as far as debate if it's a disease versus disorder, like I could entertain that, a little bit, because the whole disease versus disorder,
Exactly.
is because mental disorders are not mental diseases. So, I can kind of see correlation there, but not as far as what they were saying.
Yeah.
But just this whole thing of it's a choice.
Forget it.
And so for me, my win was it's one thing if you're going to defend Chinese democracy as a Guns N' Roses album, then I'm going to come at you on Twitter, because that's actually kind of fun.
Right.
But this wouldn't be fun. This would just me. I was just like, I don't need to listen to people who and this is not the first time that they've said something, that somebody has said something that was, I'm sorry, but it's ignorant. It's absolutely ignorant.
Yeah.
And
yeah, because if it was said in a way like, if they were like, I don't see how alcoholism is a disease, and then they had a debate or a conversation, then okay, fine, because maybe they're open to learning, but that's not the way it was presented.
They literally followed it up with diabetes and saying that just because you're a fat person doesn't mean you're going to automatically be diabetic.
Which is true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can also say you chose to eat the freaking Big Macs. It's like, I sat there, I was like, is just
here's a great example. Here's a great example of how you're right about the diabetes thing. The last few times I've gone to the doctor, he said, when I've had blood work, he's like, your sugar number is high. He's like, it's not diabetic, but you're right there. He's like, if you don't change your lifestyle, you will be diabetic. Now the choice is mine in a lot of ways, And
even if you do, and here's the other way, it's so similar. They're both chronic.
Mm-hmm.
There's no cure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You can get treatment, but it still has to do with the modification of lifestyle.
Yep.
It can get better. It may never, ever go away.
Mm-hmm.
You may always, the similarities go on and on and on.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that there's no guarantee you'll get it. There's no predisposition. There's genetic links and there's biological and chemical, possibilities for both.
Yeah.
There's hereditary aspects of it. There's all of these things, but there's also the chance that, a different lifestyle. I just sat there and I was like, and I went, okay, no, just, Henno, you don't need to say anything. Just move on. I was just like, I literally was like, scrub.
Yeah.
It was just like the first time there was this one podcast. I like these guys, and they went off on a couple of girls who, one of them identifies herself. She self-identifies as bisexual, and these two evidently have some religious beliefs, and one of them was just mean and nasty and said things about gay people that just made me sick.
Right.
They said you're either insane, you can't be born this way, which means you're either sick or insane. And I was like, okay, so what are you saying? You're saying that these people, I'm like, no God that I know would give anybody that choice in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I just and that was the same thing too. I just said, you know what? I don't need to listen to you. I don't need to follow you on Twitter. I don't need to.
Not to mention,
I was done. So
why would you choose to be something that gets so that's still not accepted?
Yeah.
It's like, anyway, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
You don't need to go down that road. Yeah.
I'm agreeing.
I'm with you guys.
I'm with you though, Henno, and I've been doing that off and on too, where I'll hear something. A lot of times, I'll give them a second chance because, sometimes people are just dumb or they're doing a little bit of a whatever on their show. But then when you hear it again, you're like, this isn't just them making some comment. This is how they are, and.
Yeah, it wasn't the first time. It was something else, and it was the same kind of opinion. I don't believe this, blah blah blah, and I'm like, there's a ton of research that's I'm like, okay, everyone's got everyone has their predispositions or their preconceived opinions that no amount, and this is my point. People have preconceived opinions that no amount of facts are going to distract them from what they believe.
Correct, or there wouldn't be flat earthers.
And I'm just, there's nothing that I'm going to say or do is going to change anybody's mind. And this is where I come to share what I've learned in my experience. It's not for me to start going around and starting arguments with people about,
And really, if you look at, like we've talked before about choosing your hill, and it's like, what would your end game be if you start, like you said, you're not going to change them most likely, and it's like, it's just, I like the way you dealt with it. That's the way I tend to deal with this stuff too, is if I don't like something, I just quit supporting it. Yeah,
and I just went, I don't need to listen. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt them in any way. They're going to go on doing what they do, and I totally support what they do. I love it. I've loved it for years, and I don't need to hear that. I just don't. Sure. And I would rather just kind of quietly it's just like, if I'm in a room next to some guy who's spouting a bunch of, there's a great There Might Be Giants song about this guy, so, and They Might Be Giants, sorry. I just walk away.
Yep.
That's all there is to it, walk away. And it's like, and you know what I do? When I do that, I'm happier. I smile. I went on with my day like it was no big deal. If I'd have engaged, this is what would have happened. Time would have been wasted.
Yep.
A lot of time. And then I would have been in my head about it the rest of the day, about what I said, how I said it, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Because that's how this messed up brain works. That's how it works.
Oh, I get it.
So instead I just went, I can just leave this. And I went on with shoveling my ice and other...
Yeah,
finding leaks dripping because everything melts around here.
That's the best way to handle that, though, because you're totally right. It's so amazing how when you deal with stuff that way, you are just done with it. You walk away from it and you're like, and you move on. Versus, as we've talked before, giving someone that power that they didn't want / need. And it's like, take it back. Just be like, I'm not gonna do this. It's the same reason I did the same thing with politics on Facebook and stuff. I absolutely don't get involved in that stuff anymore. And I used to all the time. And what I found was I was spending way more time arguing with people than I was doing anything.
Changing minds.
Yeah. And in the end, like I said, you're not changing anyone's mind. You're not making things better, So it's like, there's better ways. Yep. If I want to support politics or whatever, there's better ways for me to use my energy,
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And that is the beauty of freedom of speech right there in a nutshell. And that's what excites me about the whole thing is that everybody, you are free to have whatever opinion you want or how illogical and maybe unintelligent, whatever you want to call it. That is your right to have those thoughts. But folks, we have the right to walk away.
Yeah, exactly.
And to not listen.
Ignore you.
To ignore you.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. And that's the beauty of it, is because it works both ways. You do not have to engage.
Yep.
And it's so tough. And I give you tons of props for doing it, because it can be so tough to walk away from something where inherently they're wrong. But yet you choose to keep your mouth quiet and to not use your voice in that moment, because you understand that it's not the benefit for you is not there.
Well, and that's a great point, actually, when you mentioned about even though you're wrong, they're wrong, is distorted thinking worksheet talks about the need to be right. And that's the difference, is when I had that constant need to be right, I would have engaged, and I know you would have too, Henno. And now
I suffer from it horribly.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. But as we've worked on it and gotten better about it, we can walk away sometimes now. And that's that major difference, is if I walk away, I don't care if I was right or wrong. I don't care anymore.
You just, and you don't have to prove it. You don't have to have that validation from others that you were right. Intrinsically inside your heart, you're like, no, I know I'm right about this.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone else thinks. I know I'm right.
Yeah.
I don't have to express it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm generally, if I can take that viewpoint, the less I engage on that, the happier I am. It's just a fact.
It's just better. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it really is. I do, I enjoy a lot of it. For me, having whatever it is, a little back and forth is fun. It's enjoyable. It can be a bit of a hobby. I don't take the stuff too personally.
Yeah.
And, there's some things I do. It's actually kind of funny. I'm more likely to argue like a politics thing than I would be to argue anything about, alcoholism or something like that, just because it's a very personal thing to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so therefore it's really, I immediately come from actually a place it's very subjective. It's not objective at all.
Yeah.
And that's whether that's good or bad, that's why I think I just don't engage on it, because it's a personal belief. So, but the rest of my week, I kept working on getting stuff organized and, somewhat cleaned up, and managed to go to the gym a bunch this week, which was great. I was really tired a lot too, which was kind of strange. I felt really tired, but I still managed to get out there and keep doing it. And it just feels good. It's once again, it's like, if I can just take care of a little bit of the business, then the next day I feel a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Next.
Well, I don't care, because I can go next.
I don't care. Whatever. You want to go ahead?
I'll go ahead. So my work trip went really, really well. I learned an absolute ton of information and made some amazing contacts. It was about a 5-hour drive for me. So this is my first time, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed, this is my first time I've ever traveled by myself. And it was a work situation. So first time ever traveling by myself, first time ever traveling by myself for work. So they rented me a car. I got to pick up the rental car, and it turned out that I needed a credit card to put down, and my debit card would not work for this particular circumstance. Car rentals insist on credit cards now.
Yep.
So I didn't know what to do. Thankfully, the woman behind the counter was the manager and took pity on me, and she accepted the credit card or the debit card for this time only. So I'm like, okay, great. I figured it was going to be all paid for because the company set it up.
Yeah.
Little did I know that's not how that worked. They'll reimburse me. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So I'm like, okay, a little rocky start, but we're good. No anxiety yet. I was holding it together, get my stuff in the car. And of course, you have that feeling that I forgot something. And I kept telling myself that. I'm like, no. I said, just stop. You're going to think yourself through this here. If you did forget something, remember Brian and his socks and going to Chicago and his, if you forget the socks, you can always buy them there. Like, okay. So regardless of whatever I forgot, if I did forget something, I can always take care of it when I get there. Mm-hmm. So I get on the road, and I'm driving. And I stop at a gas station, or I stop at one of because it was a turnpike, and one of the places along the turnpike. And of course, in my head, instantly flashes like a single woman inside of the turnpike, all these crazy people in all these places. And I'm like, nope, not going to go there. I'm not going to let myself go there. I pushed it out of my head. I'm like, I'm not going to freak out. It's okay. I am almost 40 years old. I can manage to go in Burger King to give myself a cup of coffee and get back on the road. I can handle this. So I did, and I got my stuff. I got there okay in one piece. Then I get to the place. I didn't go to the hotel first. I went to my work location in Illinois. Got out of my car. Never met the person before that I'm meeting for the first time. I know him by name. That's about it. I'm like, okay. So go up to the door. The woman buzzes me in. I ask for him. She's like, who? And I'm like, and I asked for him again. And she's like, oh, yeah, hold on. Thank Thank God. All right. For a minute there, that was response.
Yeah.
Nope. Still good.
Yeah. Oh, he got fired this morning. No.
Okay, I am doing good. So sure enough, it turned out fine. And then, so I spent my half day at work, went to the hotel. Thankfully, they took a debit card, and thank goodness I had enough money on my accounts that I could cover everything. So I didn't have to worry about that aspect of it.
Yeah, right.
But so, because I wasn't expecting having to pay for everything out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
By myself. So I ordered food and I took it up to my room and I ate in my room by myself, which is fine. Didn't feel quite up to it the first day. Second day, I went down to the bar and, I had breakfast by myself in the it was a free breakfast in the hotel restaurant, which is a very nice restaurant. So I did that. I had breakfast by myself and I'm like, I can handle this. So I go to work, come home from work to the hotel, had dinner in the bar by myself. And then the final night, I had dinner by myself in a fancy restaurant. I had, the prime rib, the whole works. I treated myself to a nice fancy dinner that they had on special. And I drove home the next day. I made it through without any major anxiety attacks, without any major self-destruct moments. I didn't sleep. I slept okay. It wasn't the best sleep in the world, but I didn't attack myself. So there's no mental attacks of, oh my God, I should have said that. I should have said this. None of that stuff went on. So I was very, very proud of myself, and I was very happy with how it all went out. And the feedback that I got from people was very positive, and it was great to hear. They were telling me how sharp I am, how bright I am, how quickly I pick up on things. So that type of feedback really helped reinforce the positive feeling of the entire trip.
Nice.
So I felt really good when I came home, exhausted, but really good about the whole state of affairs and how everything went. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Super awesome.
I'm very excited, and it was a great experience for me. And it was so funny because my parents kept checking in on me. Because God love parents. Because no matter how old you get, they'll always keep checking in on you.
Yeah.
And so, but it was sweet because my mom and my dad kept checking in, and of course my husband, kept checking in just to make sure that I was doing okay throughout the whole thing. But I did. I made it through, and I didn't forget anything. I was getting a little stressed out over absolutely nothing because everything was in my suitcase like it was supposed to be. Yep.
Well, and like you said, at least you thought of what I dealt with, and it's just like, I can stop, and that was the way it was then. It was like, oh man, I didn't pack socks. Like, oh, well, I go get socks, or I guess I just don't wear socks this weekend. It's, it's not the end of the world. It's not like forgetting your pants or something like that. You're like, ooh.
Exactly.
Or
I got this.
Part of a suit or something,
Yeah, exactly. I'm very proud of myself. That was my win, was keeping myself in check. I was able to keep my brain in check the entire time. Huge win for me.
Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about you, Brian? How's your week been?
Way less exciting than either of yours.
But that's okay.
Yeah, I haven't had as many migraines this week. So that's been good. I had a couple days this week I had one, but it was only like a 1 day or part of a day type one. So that was, they may not have even really been migraines, but I mean, they hurt bad, and knocked me out for part of the day, but then, I was okay after that. So, that I'm very happy about. I went out, what day was it? Wednesday, I think it was, or Tuesday. With Tony, and we grabbed some drinks and just hung out, which we haven't done in a long time, so that was cool. It's always funny how, just sometimes going out with somebody like that kind of really can recharge you, And so yeah, we had a really good time. We talked about some odd stuff from that night on on Salty Language this week. Cause we went actually this is anxiety related. So the first bar we went to, which is at Rocky's bar that we like going to, we got there and we looked inside the door and the place was slammed. And usually they're not full, you know. I think what it was, I think we missed the window. I think if we get there before a certain time, you can get a seat at the bar or kind of whatever. And then about half an hour to an hour later, I think is when everybody comes in. So if you're already there, you're good. But if you're coming in new, you're like, well, I guess there's nowhere to sit. So we just decided to go to another place that was around the corner, and no trouble there. They were nowhere near as busy, so that was nice. Because neither of us wanted to be in a real busy bar. Plus, the first bar, they had music there, you know, so it's hard to talk when there's live music in a small bar, you know, so it worked out for the best anyway. I've noticed this week that I've been having way more shakiness from, you know, since increasing the Wellbutrin. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to not be at this dose. So, cause they can't really dial down my Trintellix. I'm already down to 10, which I don't remember if that's the lowest dose or if I think it starts at 10. So, I don't know. So yeah, I'm going to do that because there's just too many, like honestly, last night I was making, stuffed peppers. And as I was trying to spoon the stuff in, my hand just kept shaking and I kept missing. Oof. And it's so frustrating, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I have a new respect for anybody who has, you know,
Parkinson's?
like, yeah, or whatever, anything that makes them shake like that, you know, I have a whole new respect for them because I'm only getting it temporarily and it's awful. You know, like I pick up a pen and sometimes I can't, you know, when I go to set it down on the paper and my hand just starts kind of jerking, you know, so it's not fun.
You know what I found sometimes that going through the give into the shake instead of fighting it.
Yeah.
And let it run its course, and then pick up the spoon and try again.
Yeah,
I find is sometimes better than sitting here trying to like fight against yourself.
Oh yeah, I don't.
You know what I mean?
Usually, what I do when my hands start shaking is I make a fist, and usually when I do that, it goes away within a minute or so. But every time I picked up the spoon, I kept doing it. And it was just, I'm like, so I called my mom over. I was like, can you finish these? I'm like, I'm just getting really frustrated, you know?
Sure.
So she finished them off and, you know, it was fine. It's just, you know, like I said, just really frustrating. And, you know, and honestly, I'm not feeling that much different than when I was on the lower dose of Wellbutrin. So to me, there's no point in being on this dose, you know? And I don't want to go higher because I'm really afraid if I'm getting shakes here, what, you know, any higher would be, you know. So,
you know, they may go dissipate over the next week or so.
I've already been on it for a week or week and a half. So
and they're not dissipating? Yeah.
They actually got worse this week.
Maybe it's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have an appointment with him in like a week or two. What I thought about doing is if I can tolerate it, I'll probably just keep taking it until I see him. That way I can go in there and say, hey, I've got a month of this or whatever. And it's not, you know, to give it a full, you know, full good sample size for him. But yeah, right now I'm not feeling it.
Fair enough.
Well, and also, which is, you know, in the shaking is a fairly common side effect from what he said, you know, that a lot of people, it's not all the time. It's just once in a while. Like I said, when I try to grip something, my hands will shake. You know, like I try to pour a glass of milk and my hand will start shaking, you know. But, I've noticed, and this is also a common side effect, is that my anxiety's been higher. I've been really anxious since starting it.
That sucks.
Yeah. So, you know, like I said, right now, if I'm doing the plus minus board, there's no plus, you know, they're all minuses. So, you know, it's a pretty easy decision in my head, but I'll talk to him because, you know, to make sure, because I can't imagine he'll keep me on it though, because he's very much if we both don't agree on it, then it's not the right treatment kind of guy, which I love, you know.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to be sad when I'm not seeing him anymore.
Is he going away?
I'm part of a program that's a year-long program. So at the end of the year, I have to go back to the other psychiatrist, who was fine. He wasn't a bad guy. I just like this guy's style better.
I see.
The other one's more of a, you go in, you sit down, he asks you like 3 questions, and then you're out the door. This guy kind of talks with you a little bit to really get into it. Not talk therapy, nothing like that, but just he asks more questions to really,
Gotcha.
I feel like he's more thorough, so we'll see. And this is the last thing I'll mention, I think, because I can't think of anything else I really did this week. Last night I had a dream that I can't remember now. I wish I would have written it down, because when I woke up, I remembered it. And something was going on, and I got hurt in this dream. Like my right knee, I could not put weight on it. And basically in this dream, I was hopping around on my left leg. And whatever it was, something scared me awake, basically. Like I was startled awake. And I was in bed still for probably 15 minutes. I could not get my brain to accept that my knee was okay. Like I was going to turn over, and then the first thing popped in my head is, no, your knee. Like it almost reminded me of the feelings I had after my knee surgery, to where, I couldn't lay a certain, I couldn't turn because, I couldn't lay on the knee, But yeah, it was, so once I kind of was coming out of that a little bit, I started, doing grounding things and was able to work myself out of it, but that was no fun. So yeah, I have dreams like that off and on where I wake up and I seriously don't know if I'm in reality or still in the dream. So.
I do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I know mine is direct correlation to the medicine.
Yeah, mine is too. Mm.
Yeah, that it's just the dreams are very, very vivid and tough to come out of sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
When you first wake up, which sucks when they're bad dreams, and is nice when they're not so bad dreams. Right.
Yeah, because I woke up, my heart was pounding, and and like I said, in my head, it's you can't turn onto your knee. So that was something. So it was different though. Normally the dream I have that really messes with me is that I'll be in a place, I'm being chased, and there's no exits. And that's really frustrating because,
textbook anxiety dream.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Honestly, what I do when I have that dream, the first thing I do is I get out of bed and I go over and I open the door. It's just, that's all I need usually to snap me out of it. It's like, okay, there's an exit. Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, that was my fun week.
Nice.
Especially that last part.
Well, something that we're going to talk about today, folks, is an article actually I found in inc.com. And it's From Surviving to Thriving, 4 Ways to Overcome the Mental Toll of Startup Life. So this article is geared towards an entrepreneur or someone who's doing a startup business. But I think a lot of what they are talking about is anytime we're forging our own path, setting out on something new to us, or making a new choice in our lives, new job, new relationship, new diet, new whatever it is. These are tips that we can use. It says replacing self-limiting beliefs and old habits can go a long way toward improving your mental state.
Really?
About this. So Andrew Thomas is co-founder of Skybell Video Doorbell, a smart home security company that is making homes and neighborhoods safer with a video doorbell that lets users answer the door from a smartphone. Skybell has raised millions in funding to date, was named 2014 CES Innovations Award nominee, and works with Amazon, Best Buy, Nest, Comcast, and Apple HomeKit. Andrew directs Skybell's strategy, partnerships, and product marketing. Andrew speaks and writes on topics including home automation, crowdfunding, hardware funding, and startups. But there's a side to his startup life that we don't like talking about. It's not as glamorous as funding announcements or product releases, yet can mean the difference between success and failure. As founder of Skybell, a home security company developing a Wi-Fi video doorbell to answer from a smartphone. Yeah, we covered that. I've completed partnerships, helped raise millions. More importantly, I've experienced the mental health challenges that are so common with the entrepreneurs. I'm grateful that I found tools that have helped me thrive instead of just survive. There's a growing movement around mental health and startups to bring this conversation into the open. To be clear, I'm not writing as someone who has it all figured out. My goal is to add to the collective energy around improving the mental health of founders by sharing the things I've done to create a stronger, healthier, and more productive mental state as a founder. So I thought that was kind of cool that the guy that's writing this is someone who's like us. You know, he has some opinions and some thoughts and some things that have helped him that he wants to share with the collective, not necessarily saying he's an answers or he's the, authority of anything.
Right. There are books on this topic, though. If you type in surviving to thriving, there's a decent amount of books that came up for anyone listening if you want to read more on the topic. But you don't have to take my word about it.
So, detach from success and failure. Have you woken up so sure of success that there was no way you could fail, only to wake up the next day thinking there's no way you'll ever succeed? I think it's safe to say that we all feel this way at some point, and it makes us all anxious and unsettled. A practice of non-attachment can help. Non-attachment is a Taoist concept that helps us detach from the meaning we apply to outcomes. Put simply, everything is an experience. And things only become good or bad when we say they are good or bad. Living by non-attachment is separating yourself from the meaning and the outcome. That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you stop and think about what he just wrote there and what that just means, the more I strive for that concept, the happier I am.
Right, because you're not chasing happiness.
Yes, because everything is an experience, and everything is a lesson. There's always something I can get out of it. Goes with me, everything's a choice. My latest thing is positivity is a choice. It's all about the choices that we make, and it's so cool. If you can take that step back, it just opens up the world for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. Because, going back to when I had my business, this was very hard for me to do. I was very live or die. It was either, we're doing good today or we're doing bad today. There was no, we're here, we're existing, anything along those lines. But, I've read before, somebody said that it was something I read where they were talking about how life isn't good or bad, it just is. And basically the same idea of what he was saying, which is it's not good or bad until you decide it's, how you decide to kind of interpret it. So,
Yeah, it's one of the a hard concept for me to grasp, this idea of impermanence and that because these things feel real.
Yep.
And to shift it to the experience, it's the journey, it's not the finish line, all these kind of concepts.
Yeah.
They're not easy to grasp until it's absolutely one of those things where it's, okay, that's what they mean by that. You just don't get it until you get it.
Well, it makes sense too, because when we're in school, we're chasing the grades. Then you get out of school and you either get, your first jobs or you go into college or both, and you're chasing, good reviews or good grades still. And then you get into another job and you know what I mean? You're constantly chasing that success. So, and if you don't hit it, you're a failure. That's how it's kind of looked at. Most people don't go, oh, well, you had an okay career in the corporate world. It's kind of a, you want to do good. And if you didn't, then it's well, you failed. So it's hard for us personally to remove ourselves from that because it's kind of ingrained in us,
Absolutely. 100% can see that, and how society's kind of trained ourselves to be.
Yeah.
It's interesting because he found, sorry folks, he discovered the principles of non-attachment by reading the Tao of Pooh, which if you haven't read that,
Great book.
It's a great book. And the Tao of Pooh is the quintessential example of non-attachment. While the rest of the characters act as smart, depressed, anxious, or hyper, Pooh just is. And I try to think about this when things go sideways at work. So, folks, we're all striving to be Pooh. So, you are not your startup. Can you tell the difference between you as a person and your startup? Do you look to external validation of your business as a validation of your self-worth? As founders, we tie our self-worth to the outcomes of our startups and lose touch with our role as creators. We shift into a victim mentality and perceive the circumstances as negative things being done to us as individuals. This burden becomes lighter when you realize that you are not your startup. You are a creator, an instrument of creative energy that has capacity to create whenever or whatever you want. It's not the source of your power. Your creativity is the source of your power.
Yeah, and this is important too because even though this says startup, you easily could put, you are not your mental illness. You are not whatever job you do, type of thing, that type of stuff. Because there are a lot of people that, they'll lose their job and that everything to them. It's like, like I can't do anything and there's no point in whatever. And it's like, no, you're not that job. This is, that's just part of your overall package, but that's not you. That's something you wear, not something you are. And, so definitely don't just look at it as a startup for like businesses or whatever, as Jen said. It's, this stuff applies to a lot of things.
A lot of it comes down to stuff that we create. So, such as, a project that you do at work, or a piece of artwork, or a piece of music, things that intrinsically come from us, that it's very easy for us to attach our ego and our person to it. Yeah. And someone attacks it, it's attacking us.
Yep.
It's very, very easy. Or children even. We see that happen all the time. Someone criticizes your child and they automatically, you feel that they're criticizing you.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not necessarily.
That was one of the hardest things for me to get over in art school or going to school for graphic design was when we had to stand up for our critiques. We had to stand in front of the class and say, this is mine. This is why I chose what I chose. And then people get to ask you questions. And they're generally not mean, but they will dissect your technique, your, skill level, all this kind of stuff. And it's really hard to not stand up there and take it as, a butt whooping sometimes, and I mean, there's the other side of it to where they're just blowing sunshine, but it's, that's easy to deal with. You might, oh, shucks, kind of, whatever. But the other way, it's like you walk away and there's just steam coming off your head, It took me a little while to get used to that. Cause before that, I never had to stand in front of the class really and present my art. It was usually just the teacher walking around and saying, oh, that's good, or maybe you need to work on this, and that was it, Then I get in college, and they're like, oh, yeah, you actually have to stand up there and dodge bullets. Like, oh, okay.
But keep in mind, the bullets are not meant for you.
Right.
They're meant for the artwork.
Yep. That's why I say it's very hard. It's very hard when it comes from your creativity.
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're putting yourself into the work, whether it's, music, acting, art like that, So, yeah.
And people feel that way about their businesses. They feel that way about, their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's so many other factors involved with that.
Yeah.
To sit there and associate yourself with what amounts to so many different factors like skill sets, communications abilities, marketing. I mean, there's It's so much better if you can actually disconnect that this is not a presumption of me and who I am. It's my work, but I'm not my work.
Yeah.
Yes, I created the work, but and again, this is a chance to also bring back some control, because if you can separate yourself from your work, you can get back to work. You can try to do better at your work.
Yep. You can also realize that if you're being mistreated at work, that you find the strength to walk away easier.
That's true too.
Because,
where you might not be able to if you identify it as part of who you are.
Yeah.
Yes,
It
in
makes it
that
very difficult to walk
codependent
away.
relationship between work and and the employee. That's something we can spend an entire episode on, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Codependency between a company and an employee.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the second one. Let's see what the third one is here. The third one, build up more empathy. It's easy to feel small when you beat yourself up at all times. Luckily, you can shift out of this mindset with empathy. You need to build up your empathy in order to express it. You can do this by removing judgment from your system, especially judgment for others. If you catch yourself judging another founder, either for their success or failure, stop and feel happiness or compassion for them instead. Building this level of awareness over your thoughts takes practice, but it's worth it. The biggest benefit has been realizing that when I express more empathy for others, I express more empathy for myself. When I judge others less, I judge myself less. My brother introduced me to this idea, and it's been one of the biggest ways for me to experience more happiness.
Okay, I get that. That makes a lot of sense. Because when I first used empathy, I'm like, okay, how does that work?
Yeah.
But it works precisely how it's supposed to work. It's about celebrating others. It's selflessness at its core.
Yeah. It really is, because when something good happens to you, you want other people to be happy for you.
Yeah.
So
treat people as you want to be treated. Yeah,
exactly.
Be empathetic to their situation, positive or bad.
And that's the thing, is we tend to look at empathy as far as like understanding negative things in people's lives, not just positive things. And this is to be empathetic for people and their positive things, is to sit there. Yeah. It's to celebrate their wins with them.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Very powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's tough. I mean, you think about like comedians or musicians or whatever, where they come up with somebody and maybe they were kind of the headliner when they first were coming up. And next thing you know, that other person becomes, Louis C.K. or Dane Cook or some big name type thing, and they're still doing open mic, or not open mics, but they're still doing local comedy clubs. It's got to be tough to look at that and go, man, I was right there. A great example, actually, we did an enthusiast with Salty Language, and we had my friend Jacob on there, who grew up and he knew Chris, was it Delia or Delia? I can't remember his name.
Delia?
Yeah.
I think it's Delia.
Yeah. He knew him, like, they're friends. Well, Chris is doing pretty well. Like, he's, doing well with his comedy. He's on TV shows. He's getting notoriety. And Jacob was like, the whole time, he's like, but that dude hit open mic after open mic after open mic. He's like, he kept honing his craft, And he's like, I didn't, But he's like, it's still hard to look at someone he's like, I'm happy for him, but he's like, it's so hard to look at that and go, not be jealous, which we'll get to in a minute, but,
That's the most fun I've ever had when it comes to competitions or any sort of a contest has always been when we've all just done it and had fun and celebrated each other's wins. I went through a period with jet skiing where it was nothing but competition, and it was nerve-wracking, and there was a lot of posturing, and it really wasn't very fun. And then I went through a period where all of us were stoked for each other. We were all congratulating each other. It didn't matter who won. It was about getting out there and doing your best.
Yeah.
And it didn't make you. We competed just as hard. As a matter of fact, it was we were stepping up each other's games in the process of great competition done in the best spirit.
Yeah.
And it made it it was more entertaining for everyone that was watching. Yeah. And we had a great time. And I think the same thing happened with, the whole city council thing. Is I didn't want to go up in front of and have this confrontational, exchange in front of the newspaper. It's like, let's just have a good time.
Yeah.
And then if you don't win, you at least have something. I mean, how many times have you gone in just all about the competition and all about I have to win, and when you don't, you missed out on the whole experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can think about that time and time again. But if I went there to enjoy the experience and went and did my best, at least if I didn't come out on top, I enjoyed the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can't control the outcome. You can only control your movements inside it. Yeah.
Yeah, and your attitude about it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the last one that he talks about is stop comparing yourself to others. When I'm frustrated about how my startup is going, I sometimes look around and ask myself why other people can do it, but I can't. However, comparing oneself to others is toxic unless you turn it into a positive. When you compare yourself to others, you forget that you don't know how their journey has been. You don't know how long they've been working or the sacrifices they've made. Mm-hmm. Instead of comparing yourself negatively to a successful founder, go learn from them. Discover the mindset and actions that led to their success and make those your own. If they can do it, so can you. Turn a negative into a positive and use them to set an example for your success in the life you want to create. The key to making progress towards improving mental health is understanding that it's a process. Replacing old beliefs and habits with new ones takes time, but it's a work in progress. Trust in the process. Small incremental changes over time will yield results. By focusing on your mental state, you adopt the skills that you need to shift from surviving to thriving in your startup.
The part where he talks about, like, in mental health, how the little steps add up over time. I've had a good amount of those moments over the last few months, especially like if I go back and listen to early episodes of this or go back and listen to Salty Language from a few years ago. I'm different and I can see a difference in me and my attitude and such from one point to the other, which is another reason why stuff like journaling can be really helpful. Because if you journal and then say 2 years down the road, you go back and look where you started and go, wow, I was in a whole different mindset. But I've been doing these little baby steps and now I'm all the way over here. Even though it doesn't feel like that far, when I look back, I'm like, whoa, I've moved miles,
Yeah.
So that's one thing that's nice about doing the podcasting is this is an audio journal essentially. I can go back and listen and it's kind of cool to see that I've moved forward, Had I moved backwards, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as cool, but, but I didn't. And, but the comparing yourself to others, I've said it, I think, on here before, but it's like, I see it all the time with artists to where, you'll see a comic book artist post something and in the comments, there's almost always I wish I was as good as you. And I saw one guy who every time somebody would post like that, he would be like, here's what I did. I draw from basically the minute I wake up until the minute I go to bed. He's like, I've been doing that for 15 years. That's how you get this good, And he's right. It's not luck. It's not all this other, it's putting in the work, Just like I'm sure if you just pick up a guitar, you're not going to be that good generally. If you've been playing it for 10 years, the odds are you'll be a better guitar player. I mean, I know maybe not, but
yeah, and it's finding that balance, if you're going to compare yourself, because we all do, it's a natural thing. Mm-hmm. Compare how much instead of how different you are. Look at how much alike you are. What skills and what attributes do you have in common? Mm-hmm. If you admire someone, see what you have in common and see how they use those traits and those skills for their benefit. Mm-hmm. So you can learn and see how you can use yours to your benefit.
Which is basically the premise of the Tim Ferriss podcast. Is he wanted to sit down with the most successful people in the world and say, what makes you tick? What do you do that we're not doing that makes you this successful? And that's why almost every episode that I listen to, even if it's someone that I'm like, I listen to it, I get stuff from them. There's usually a little nugget here or there, and you're like, oh, that's good, kind of a thing.
Sure.
And it's so weird, like one of my favorites is he did one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he talks about just like how he just doesn't let stuff bother him, basically. He just refuses to let it, keep him from going after what he wants, and it's just funny listening to him talk about this stuff so matter-of-factly, because he's not talking about movies, not talking politics. He's talking about himself and his mental strength and stuff. Yeah, it's a really interesting interview. But it's the same thing. Like, you just don't, if you compare yourself to others, you'll never meet their mark. Well,
no, because you're a different person. So
yeah, exactly.
If you have the same life experiences and the same journey that they've been on, you'll be in the exact same spot as them, potentially.
Maybe.
Because, maybe. Mm-hmm. But each one of us is different, and that's what makes it exciting and new and awesome. Yeah. It's, I don't want to be like anyone else.
Yeah. It is tough, though. It is right that it's really tough, especially like as a business, to be like, why are they doing this and I can't? Or in podcasting or anything you do, like, why are they successful and I'm not, And
I say it all the time with work is, why have I not been able to break through that then to the next level? Yeah. What is it about me that's holding me back? Mm-hmm. And it's very difficult to accept that it may not be anything that I'm doing wrong. Mm-hmm. I just am not at that point yet. Mm-hmm. I'm not ready yet, or it's not the right circumstances, the right situation yet.
Yeah. Or just
tough to accept.
Like you've dealt with, what was it, the last time or time before? One of the times when you were trying to get a different position, there was someone who just had more,
just fit it better.
They just fit it better. Yeah. So it's like, well, you can be the best you can be and still not be good enough for something, but that doesn't mean you're not good enough for everything, and that's kind of the key too.
There's also one pitfall with comparing, whether it's business or personal, like we do when you start comparing your insides with other people's outsides.
Yep.
You're only comparing to the things that you think are good. You don't necessarily know what's bad.
That's true.
You don't sit there and say, you don't know. Like, you might not want, sure, you see them, what they've accomplished, but do you want their debt? Maybe you don't want that debt.
Right.
From a business standpoint, we have no idea, mm-hmm. And just like with people, you sit there, God, I wish I could be like, well, you have no idea how miserable that person is.
I was just going to use Kurt Cobain as an example, basically. Just be like, man, I want to be as talented as him. It's like, do you want all that mental baggage that he had, though? It's like, sometimes it's not great on the other side. And you're right. This goes back to when we talked about this with social media. About comparing your life to someone else, because you're only seeing what's put out there. You're not seeing the behind the doors stuff. And a lot of times that stuff is, most of us don't want to share our worst stuff. That's, we
true.
So.
And it's, and you mentioned, Brian, about the baby steps and looking back, and something my husband mentioned to me, that I didn't see it until he mentioned it, but he told me, he's like, do you realize that 5 years ago, you never would have been able to take this road trip on your own?
Yeah, he's right. Yeah, I think he's right.
And I stopped and I thought about that, and he's like, you would never have been able to do this. And even if you would have done it, it would have been so much harder. Mm-hmm. He's like, you would have really struggled through it. And the fact that you made it through like you did is a testament. And I'm like, yeah, it's a testament to how far I've come. Mm-hmm. But it's also in relation to the people and the support system, the whole package. Mm-hmm. That it's, I'm taking the credit and I'm taking the win for, the work that I've done. But I'm also going to, give kudos out there to my support system that's helped me to become this independent and have this ability to be able to be self-sufficient. Mm-hmm. It takes a village, people, to build me.
You're not wrong, though. I mean, you're very right. It's, yeah.
Oh,
It's, it takes a village to make this tick. It happens.
Well, you really are, because especially as you're trying to get on any sort of road to recovery, you're basically sharpening the pencil, and sometimes there's, these people that become shavings, and it's, but that's what you have to do to become sharp. And that's, just the way life goes sometimes. But you're right. And what you find over time is that those people around you, you get it down to where the people who really care about you are the ones around you, You don't allow people who don't care about you to get in, that far, or to influence you, Yeah. So that's all very important.
Yeah. And I just, my support system, it means the world to me. I mean, I know that they are a good part of me where I'm at now is because of them. My doctors, my friends, my family. Huge help.
Yep.
Can't do it alone. I think that's my number one thing. And even in this article, he kind of alludes to it's, stuff that you do to yourself, but it's still, it involves others.
Right.
It's,
And this kind of stuff is exactly why therapy has helped me so much. Because a lot of this stuff are things that I would do. And when I tell my therapist that, she gives me tools or ways to reframe or to stop and think differently so that I can move forward easier and not be caught up in that web of doubt and comparing myself and all those kind of things. That's why we, talk about getting help, if you need it. And Jen, what you said a minute ago about you can't do it alone is totally it, because that's what I tried to do for a long, long time. And it didn't work. I thought it worked until I was able to finally see from the outside a little bit how little it actually worked. So
would that be like a web of distorted thinking?
It really was, yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
It really is.
It really
is.
is.
That's what a therapist does. And at least that's what happened for me.
Yeah.
Is I would throw out some distorted thinking. She'd correct me.
Yep. Yeah. That's basically what it is.
Throw out a little more distorted thinking. She'd correct me.
Yep. It's totally right. Because when I go in there and I say something like that, she will, be like, well, you need to stop and go back to these are the moments when you should, try to stop and recognize where you are. And it's like, oh yeah, right. Cause sometimes, like I've said before, sometimes you just blow right through these things, without meaning to. And, which is going to happen. Like we've talked about before, this is a process. It's a marathon. You're not going to win every time. There's just sometimes you lose, and that's okay. So, yeah.
Cool. I don't know, guys. What do you think?
It's a good list.
We're good?
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, folks, if you want to continue the conversation, you want to come join us like Clint has a couple times. We love you, Clint. And or if you have something you want to share, give us a call, or actually give us a shout on our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. Our email is thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com. Or you can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with a G. And how about you, Henno?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno. Find me on Facebook, Henno Heiter. Yeah.
Sweet. And you, Brian, how can they reach you?
You can also find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language or at saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, unlike this one. We have a Facebook group that you can find at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. Let's see here. What else? We're part of the Tangent Bound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. So please go over there and have a listen to some of the other shows on the network for us. We would appreciate it. And if you'd like to help the show out, we'd appreciate it if you're using Apple Podcasts, if you would rate, review, and subscribe, if you have not already. If you're using Stitcher or Spotify or another app like that, please use any, the like or share option that they have to help us get more, I don't know, whatever it is, visibility, move up in their list, I don't know, whatever it is. I think that's all that stuff, right? Yeah. So, we're not doctors, therapists, or trained professionals. It's three people sharing our opinions. Please don't use this show as a substitute for therapy. If you need help, please don't self-diagnose. Please go in to get help. As I've said before, get the estimate, see what's going on, and then work on a plan of action from there. But please don't try to do it yourself. It's just a really hard road. I waited too long, and now I'm like, man, I shouldn't have let that get all that control of me. So don't do what Brian did. If you feel as though you may harm yourself or others, please reach out to somebody in your support system, or call a suicide prevention hotline number, or there's all sorts of different numbers and lines and stuff out there for people who need someone to talk to or just need some help. They're easy enough to find on the internet, or we have some of them over on our Facebook group, if you need them, or just reach out to one of us and we can set you down that path. But please try not to be alone during that time. And if you catch yourself writing a note, or how you would harm yourself or others, please reach out to someone right then. That's a giant red flag, that you need help. So please don't wait. And then the last thing is reach out to somebody. If you haven't talked to someone in a while, reach out to them, or, if you know they have mental health issues, to, just help them out, make sure, or reach out to them to find out if they're okay. Just tell somebody you appreciate them or that you love them or whatever. 'Cause, it'll make you feel better. It'll make them feel a little better. And you never know when you might just save someone's life.
Absolutely, folks. Take care of yourself this coming week and keep doing the best you can do. And that's all you can ever ask of yourself. So have a good one.